Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today to discuss something many of us have faced at some point: handling a guy who plays games with you. Now, I know this can be tricky territory, but let me tell you, understanding the game is the first step to winning it. In the world of relationships, one of the hardest things to come to terms with is when someone plays games with you. It's confusing, hurtful, and can even leave you questioning your self-worth. But in order to effectively handle someone who's playing games, the first step is to recognize that it's happening. Recognizing that you're being played isn't always as easy as it sounds, especially when emotions are involved. Often we convince ourselves that certain behaviors are just misunderstandings or temporary moments of miscommunication, but in truth, these behaviors are often part of a pattern, a game that someone is playing with your feelings. So, how do you recognize when you're being played? The first sign is inconsistency. A person who's serious about you will show up consistently, both emotionally and physically. They'll make an effort to be present in your life and will want to spend time with you, not just when it's convenient for them, but when someone is playing games, you might find them being hot and cold, 1 minute expressing interest and the next disappearing without a trace. They'll pull away when you get too close or stop replying to messages for long stretches of time, only to return like nothing happened. Another key indicator that you're being played is when someone is giving you mixed signals. They might say things that imply they're interested in you, but their actions don't align with their words. For example, they might compliment you, say they care about you, and talk about a future with you, but then their behavior shows no real investment. They might avoid serious conversations, make excuses not to meet up, or give vague answers when you try to understand their feelings. Mixed signals can be confusing because they make you question your own perceptions and leave you constantly wondering where you stand. But deep down, you know that this lack of clarity is a form of emotional manipulation. Another tactic commonly used by someone who's playing games is the use of the breadcrumbing strategy. Breadcrumbing is when someone gives you just enough attention to keep you interested, but not enough to actually build a meaningful connection. They may send you texts or likes on social media, but when you try to engage in deeper, more meaningful conversations, they either don't respond or brush it off. This behavior makes you chase after them for more, constantly trying to piece together the crumbs of affection they throw your way. It's frustrating, and often you end up feeling like you're doing all the work in the relationship while they remain emotionally distant and non-committal. Another sign that you're being played is when someone uses guilt or emotional manipulation to keep you hooked. This can happen in subtle ways, such as making you feel bad for having boundaries, or making you feel as though you're asking for too much by wanting simple things like respect or clear communication. They might even play the victim role, convincing you that they're too busy or dealing with personal problems, and that's why they can't be there for you the way you need them to be. This kind of manipulation is intended to make you feel guilty for asking for more, and it can lead you to second-guess your own feelings, making you think that maybe you're the one who's being unreasonable. Now, it's also important to understand the emotional toll these games can take. When you're in a situation where you're constantly being played, you may begin to lose sight of your own emotions and well-being. You might start doubting yourself, feeling insecure, and questioning whether you're enough. You might also start to accept less than what you deserve because deep down, you fear that it's the best you can get. The anxiety that comes from waiting for a text or an answer to a message can begin to take over your life, leaving you feeling distracted and emotionally drained. You may find yourself in a constant state of anticipation, never knowing where you stand, which can be mentally and emotionally exhausting. Recognizing that someone is playing games with you isn't easy, but it's necessary if you want to maintain your emotional health. It requires being honest with yourself about the behaviors you're experiencing and not dismissing red flags because you want to believe the best in someone. Sometimes we overlook these behaviors because we're invested in the idea of the relationship, or because we're afraid of being alone. But when you take a step back and really observe the patterns of behavior, it becomes clearer that the games are being played, and that realization is the first step toward regaining control of your emotions and your life. It's important to note that recognizing the game doesn't necessarily mean you have to immediately call the person out or end the relationship. Instead, it means you're aware of what's happening, and now you can make informed decisions about how to proceed. It's about having the clarity to know what you're dealing with so you can protect your heart and your time. Recognizing the game doesn't mean you're weak or that you're letting someone off the hook. It simply means you're giving yourself the chance to make better choices going forward. It's the beginning of taking back your power, and from that point on, you can start to set the boundaries and expectations that will guide you toward healthier, more fulfilling. In any relationship, one of the most important aspects to maintain is your self-respect. It's easy to lose sight of your value, especially when someone you care about seems to be playing games with your emotions. Whether it's someone who is emotionally distant, giving you mixed signals, or simply not treating you the way you deserve, the temptation to chase after them or make excuses for their behavior can be overwhelming. However, it's essential to remind yourself of your worth and never let anyone, no matter how charming or persuasive, make you feel less than you are. Self-respect is the foundation upon which you build your identity. It's how you view yourself, your values, and the standards you set for how others should treat you. If you allow someone to disrespect you or play with your feelings, you're sending a message to yourself that you're willing to tolerate mistreatment in exchange for their attention or affection. Over time, this erodes your confidence and sense of self-worth, making it harder to recognize when you're being manipulated or disrespected. It also sends the message to the person playing games with you that they can continue treating you poorly without consequence, as if you'll always be there no matter what. One of the keys to maintaining your self-respect in the face of someone playing games with you is knowing that your value is not determined by someone else's treatment of you. No one else defines your worth. You do. If someone is making you feel unimportant, it's not a reflection of your true worth. It's a reflection of their inability to recognize or appreciate the value you bring to the table. But the moment you start to compromise your standards, lowering your expectations just to keep the peace or to maintain a relationship, you're betraying yourself. This is where your self-respect comes into play. It's a form of self-love that says, I deserve to be treated with kindness, honesty, and respect. There's a tendency to let our emotions cloud our judgment, especially when we're emotionally invested in someone. We may start to ignore red flags because we don't want to believe that the person we care about is actually playing games with us. But in these situations, your self-respect should be non-negotiable. You cannot let anyone make you feel like you are not enough, or worse, make you feel as though you have to earn their love or attention. Love is not about proving your worth. It's about finding someone who appreciates you for who you are. If someone is playing games with you, they are not showing appreciation, they're showing a lack of respect. And that's something you shouldn't accept under any circumstances. The temptation to prove your worth can be strong when you feel like someone is pulling away or not treating you well. You may start to think, if I just do this for him, or if I just change this about myself, then maybe he'll stop playing games and see me for the person I truly am. But this mindset is dangerous. It suggests that your worth is conditional, that you need to prove yourself to someone who is not even valuing you in the first place. The truth is, the right person will never make you feel like you need to prove anything. They will love and appreciate you just as you are, flaws and all, because they see your worth. Maintaining your self-respect also means setting clear boundaries and sticking to them. If someone is playing games with you, it's important to stand firm in your values and what you will and won't tolerate. When you allow someone to manipulate you or treat you disrespectfully, you are giving them permission to continue. But when you set boundaries, you're making it clear that you value yourself too much to be treated like an option or a game. Boundaries aren't just about protecting yourself from others. They are about protecting your own peace of mind your dignity, and your self-worth. Often, the hardest part of maintaining self-respect in such situations is knowing when to walk away. It's easy to get attached to someone and want to fix things, to hope that with time they'll change and start treating you better. But sometimes the best thing you can do for your self-respect is to walk away from a situation that is no longer serving you. This doesn't mean that you don't care about the person. It means you care enough about yourself to recognize when you deserve better. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. It shows that you are willing to prioritize your well-being over the temporary comfort of staying in a relationship that isn't fulfilling. When you maintain self-respect, you send a message to the universe that you are worthy of love, respect, and honesty. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. And when someone sees that you value yourself and are unwilling to accept anything less than you deserve, they will either step up or step out. But regardless of what they choose, you'll be in a better position to find someone who truly appreciates you for the amazing person you are. In any relationship, personal boundaries are essential to maintaining your emotional and mental well-being. When someone is playing games with you, setting clear boundaries becomes even more important because it establishes the lines that should never be crossed. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and they communicate your expectations to others, letting them know what is acceptable behavior and what is not. Without boundaries, you risk being manipulated, disrespected, or emotionally drained by people who are not considering your needs or feelings. When someone plays games with you, it often involves behavior that is unclear, manipulative, or disrespectful. For example, they may disappear for days, only to suddenly reappear with no explanation or apology, leaving you wondering what happened during that time. Or they may say one thing but do another, leaving you confused about where you stand with them. In these situations, setting boundaries is the key to protecting yourself from emotional harm. A boundary might look like telling the person that you won't accept being ignored or that you need clear communication to feel secure in the relationship. It could mean telling them that you won't engage in any conversations that are honest and open. When you establish these boundaries, you are asserting your right to be treated with respect and honesty. Setting boundaries isn't just about saying no to things you don't like. It's also about saying yes to things that honor your needs and well-being. Boundaries reflect what you need in a relationship to feel safe, valued, and appreciated. It's important to remember that boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines that help you maintain healthy relationships by ensuring that you are treated the way you deserve. When you set boundaries, you're giving the other person the chance to meet your needs and showing them that you are not willing to tolerate behavior that diminishes your sense of self-worth. The challenge, however, is that boundaries are only effective if they are enforced. Simply stating your boundaries isn't enough. You must be willing to walk away or take action if they are violated. If you let someone repeatedly cross your boundaries without consequence, you're essentially telling them that their behavior is acceptable. This creates a pattern of disrespect and inconsistency, which is exactly what someone who is playing games with you wants. They want to keep you on the hook without fully committing to the relationship. But if you stand firm in your boundaries and hold the line, you're not giving them any room to play those games anymore. Sometimes setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're afraid of conflict or losing the person you care about. But it's important to remember that your boundaries are not a reflection of your desire to control others. They are a reflection of your commitment to taking care of yourself. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and if someone truly cares about you, they will respect your boundaries and work with you to ensure that your needs are met. On the other hand, if someone dismisses your boundaries or tries to push past them, it's a clear indication that they are not valuing you as they should, and that is a red flag that cannot be ignored. Ultimately, setting boundaries is a powerful tool that allows you to take control of your emotional and mental health. By clearly defining what is acceptable and what isn't, you protect yourself from the emotional roller coaster of being played. Boundaries also give you the strength to walk away from situations that aren't healthy, which in turn opens the door for better, more respectful relationships. When you stick to your boundaries, you are telling yourself and the world that you deserve nothing less than the best, and that's something no one can take away from you. Setting boundaries in any relationship is essential to maintaining emotional well-being, especially when you're dealing with someone who is playing games with your feelings. The importance of boundaries cannot be overstated, as they are the framework that helps protect your peace and ensures that you are treated with respect. When someone is not being clear with you or when their actions are inconsistent, it's easy to feel lost and uncertain. But by setting firm boundaries, you provide a clear structure for how you expect to be treated, helping to maintain your self-respect and your emotional health. One of the first things you need to do when someone is playing games with you is identify what behaviors you will and will not tolerate. For example, if they regularly leave you hanging, ignoring your messages, or taking days to respond, it's important to let them know that communication is a priority for you. You can communicate this boundary calmly, letting them know that you expect timely responses and an open line of communication. If they fail to meet that expectation, you can choose not to engage with them as much or even distance yourself until they respect your time and efforts. Establishing this type of boundary shows the person that your time is valuable and that you won't tolerate being left in the dark. Another crucial boundary in relationships, especially when someone is playing games, is emotional availability. If someone is keeping you at arm's length, playing with your emotions, or being hot and cold, it's important to express your need for honesty and transparency. Let them know that you're not interested in a relationship where the emotional connection is unclear or inconsistent. You deserve to be with someone who is open about their feelings and intentions, and if they aren't able to provide that clarity, it's time to reconsider the relationship. Setting this boundary isn't about controlling the other person. It's about preserving your emotional integrity and ensuring that you don't invest time and energy into something that won't be fulfilling or reciprocated. Boundaries also mean understanding when it's time to walk away. Too often, people stay in relationships where they feel undervalued or disrespected, hoping that things will get better over time. But by setting a boundary around what you are willing to accept, you give yourself the freedom to leave when a relationship is no longer healthy. This is one of the most empowering aspects of setting boundaries. They give you the power to decide when enough is enough. If the person you're involved with is consistently playing games, disrespecting your boundaries, or failing to meet your needs, walking away is not a sign of weakness, it's an act of self-respect. It's acknowledging that your emotional health matters and that you're willing to let go of something that isn't right for you. Open communication is one of the most effective ways to handle someone who is playing games with you. When you're faced with mixed signals or behavior that doesn't align with what you deserve, it's important to express how you feel in a clear, honest, and respectful way. Open communication allows both parties to understand each other's needs, feelings, and expectations, creating an opportunity to resolve misunderstandings and clarify intentions. However, it's crucial that this communication is done in a way that fosters dialogue rather than leading to unnecessary conflict or defensiveness. The first step to open communication is recognizing how you feel and what you need from the relationship. It's easy to become emotionally reactive when you feel hurt, frustrated, or confused. However, when you communicate these feelings, it's important to focus on expressing how you feel, not on accusing the other person of wrongdoing. For example, instead of saying, "You always ignore me and don't care about me," try, "I feel hurt when I don't hear from you for days, and I'd really appreciate more consistent communication." By framing your emotions in terms of how their actions affect you, rather than blaming or criticizing them, you create a safer space for dialogue. This approach makes it more likely that the other person will listen without becoming defensive or shutting down. Another important aspect of open communication is being willing to listen as well. Often, when someone is playing games, it's easy to focus solely on how they're behaving.